Hello. Well, never a dull moment in VGK land, right? Well, it took like 9 hours for us to finally get the trade. I'm not Golden Knights' fault in that regard. Shout out to the league for still using carrier pigeons and fax machines and whatever the hell made it take so long. But finally, Noah Hanifin is a Golden Knight. Noah Hanifin is a Golden Knight. Anthony Mantha is a Golden Knight. And the Golden Knights have a bundle of cap space still available. I've seen numbers around 3.5, 4, 5. Depends on how you want to calculate it. Let's just put it this way, because none of us really care all that much what the exact number is or how it works. What matters is name a player that's out there. The Golden Knights can still go get them. That is, without question, still an option as of this very moment, if they decide to do it. So let's start with Noah Hanifin. I'll talk a little bit more about Anthony Mantha, the podcast we put out this morning. Of course, naturally, it's already old. I don't know what the hell we were thinking putting out a podcast during the middle of trade deadline week, but we did it. And then, 12 hours later, 24 maybe, there's another trade. No, it was about 12. We recorded it last night, and then we put it out this morning. There's another trade. Noah Hanifin's here. So let's start with Noah Hanifin. So Noah Hanifin, for those of you that don't know who Noah Hanifin is, he's a 27-year-old left-handed defenseman. I would assume he slots directly onto the Golden Knights' top pair. I think that would have happened if Alec Martinez were healthy or not. I think he is the Golden Knights' second-best defenseman. Yes, I believe he is better than Shea Theodore. I think Shea Theodore is more of an offensive defenseman than Hanifin, but I think Hanifin's more of an all-around player. I think he's somewhere in between Pietrangelo and Theodore. That's how good I think this guy is. Now, the challenge is, as of right now, we have not seen an extension. We understand what that extension might look like. It could be $7.5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. It could be maybe even as high as $8 million. Everyone who knows what the cap's going to be, we understand that potentially could have some ramifications on some other players down the road, namely Jonathan Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson. We'll get to that down the road. I want to focus right now just on what they're getting, what difference it's going to make right now, and then where we go from there. The return was a first-round pick and a third-round pick. That third-round pick turns into a second-round pick. We are just going to call it a second-round pick moving forward because we fully expect the Golden Knights to win first round. That is the condition of the pick. If the Golden Knights win one round, it becomes a second-round pick. So for our concern, it's a second-round pick. Because if they don't win one round after buying Noah Hanifin, Anthony Mantha, and probably someone else, it's an absolute disaster. So let's just assume it's a second-round pick. If it becomes a third-round pick, we're going to be yapping about that pick. That pick's going to look way worse if it's a third-round pick as opposed to a second-round pick. So as a whole, Golden Knights have now gotten Noah Hanifin, 75% of his salary retained, so somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.2, $1.3 million, basically putting him effectively the cheapest defenseman that's in the starting lineup. Yeah, not even effectively. Definitely the cheapest defenseman in the starting lineup. A little bit more than like double Ben Hutton, but certainly less than Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud. That obviously will not be the case moving forward if they re-sign him. But for now, what an unbelievable price. You're getting a first-pair defenseman that's presumably going to play 22 minutes power play and penalty kill minutes for you. Spectacular price against the cap that they're getting him at the moment. Anthony Mantha, also 50% held on him. His number comes in somewhere around 2.5 to 3, somewhere in that. I can't remember the exact number. What the Golden Knights have given up: first round pick, second round pick, another second round pick, and a fourth round pick. It is quite a bit. For them both being rentals, it is quite a bit. So it is as much of anything, I would say, beyond, thanks for the 2.85 on Mantha. Beyond anything, I would say this is as all in as the Golden Knights have ever been. And I think also we're only at Wednesday at 8 p.m. I expect it to get even further. I think they will go one step further, and they will probably buy another player down the road. Who that happens to be, I don't know. Again, I would expect them to get somebody with term. We will see if the Hanifin deal comes with term. That's something we're gonna move push down the line for now, because I do think it changes the trade a little bit, but I don't think it changes as much as everyone else says, because to me, if you were willing and able to sign this player via trade, you could have potentially been willing and able to sign this player in the summer when he was available, or another player on the free agent market, potentially a similar player to him. So I don't like going overboard of saying, well, if you get the deal, if you get the extension, that suddenly makes this trade all that much better. Not really how I view it. I understand that people do view it that way. It's not necessarily how I view it. Also, I didn't mention it, but Daniil Miramanov is in the deal. To me, pretty awesome situation for Daniil that he's going to get to play. Daniil's an awesome kid. So much fun to be around. So much fun to talk to. Just good guy, good kid. Fun to watch, really, too. Has been very good in the AHL. Gets up there this year after coming off of these injuries, and we end up in a situation where he's kind of down the depth chart, 7th, 8th, 9th defenseman. He ends up going on likely to play in Calgary. It looks like he's going to get an extension as well. Good for him. But as far as the Golden Knights are concerned, it's an unrestricted or an undrafted free agent that they got out of absolutely nowhere. They turned him into something closer to, if not actually, an NHL player. I'm not even worried if he turns into a pretty damn good NHL player. I don't think it's going to have all that much impact on this deal, because he was a free agent coming up this summer. I don't think he was going to be in the Golden Knights' plans as a starting six to start out the season next year. I'm not so sure it would have made sense for him to stick around here. He probably would have gone somewhere else anyway. Doesn't really make a difference as far as the Golden Knights are concerned, because he probably was leaving anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. This Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. The Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. So, how does Noah Hanifin help? Where does Noah Hanifin help? The biggest thing that Noah Hanifin is going to do for this team is he's going to help them break out of the zone. They have had some issues breaking out of the zone. It has not been the number one issue to me. We will get to that in a second. But the bigger thing, what has been the problem, is that at times they have been forced to pass their way out of the zone, make this bump pass off the wall, make the play up the middle, whatever it happens to be. Hanifin has the ability to potentially skate the puck out. It's something that Shea Theodore does very well. It's something Pietrangelo used to do quite a bit more of. We haven't seen nearly as much of that recently. So what we're going to see more of here is you are going to see him not only skate the puck out, but then be a part of the offense. I do think that the offense that we've seen so far in Hanifin's career through Carolina and Calgary will probably come down a little bit. That's not a problem for me. Doesn't really matter, because I believe in Bruce Cassidy's system. I think Bruce Cassidy's system is spectacular. When played at its best, we can see what it can do. It can win a Stanley Cup. It can win a Stanley Cup with a goalie who we're not even sure is all that much better than an average goalie in the league. I know that argument's still up in the air. We'll leave that one for another time as well. But I believe in the system. So what the system does is it does limit some of the offense that you get out of defensemen. You're not going to get 65, 70 points out of a defenseman. You're certainly not getting the 100 that we've seen out of guys in the past. I would say reasonably, Hanifin's probably about a half point per game. I think there will be stretches where he will be better. I think there will be stretches that he will be worse. How much difference does he make on the power play? I don't think a ton, because I think the way that the power play operates in the Cassidy system, I don't think he's going to be much different than what we've seen Theodore and Pietrangelo do at the top. Now, if they do decide to move him into a secondary spot and we do end up with two defensemen, then maybe we can see something a little bit different. Let's see what they opt to do with him moving forward. He does have a pretty good shot. He has been very good at getting the puck through. Most of his goals have come basically right in front of the goal. So I haven't had a chance to go through all of them yet. We will do that over time to see where they're coming. A lot of them have actually come from circles down, low slot and mid slot. So that is certainly a good thing. We'll have to see how all those work out. But as a whole, to me, he definitely helps one of the lesser aspects in what they're doing. But he is not, because I don't think anyone is, the automatic Golden Knights will be better defensively because of this. I think as a whole, In that respect, they should be. There are a little bit of turnover and failed exits in his game. If you look at some of the micro stats, that is there. I think part of that is he plays so much. You look at Alex Pietrangelo, you see failed exits on his. Not really part of his game that I think jumps off the page to me, because he's out there so often, there will be failed exits. That is part of Hanifin's game. And to me, if the Golden Knights do not start reloading their defense, locking down the neutral zone better, he's a good skater. He's going to be good in the neutral zone, but he's only going to be as good as everyone else that the Golden Knights have had if the defensemen do not, or the forwards do not come back through the neutral zone and help out, help take away that ice so that the gaps can be good. If he's in the same situation that Pietrangelo and Theodore and Whitecloud and Haig and Martinez have been in for the past 10 games or so, he's not going to look all that much different, because I don't think anyone potentially can. It's not really what's going to happen to change the way that this is going to go. So to me, he will help in breaking out in regards to he can skate it out. Decision making, I think he'll be fine. I don't think he'll be all that different. But as a whole, the team has to defend better through the neutral zone and then be able to get out of their zone quicker and cleaner when the puck is dumped in, something that they have had some problems with, that he also at times has had some issues with. Not a huge issue. I'm not saying that's one that I have an issue with or something that I'm like, that's what I'm keeping my eye on, but that is part of the game. And one of those, out of 10 going back and getting the pucks, one of them ends up in the back of the goal. That's all we remember. We remember the Whitecloud mistake in the last game. We remember some of the Martinez mistakes. We remember Kolazar overskating the puck. Like, there are things that we see that if one of those happens, now all of a sudden it's because the rest of the game hasn't been good. So that part, is he going to help the defense? Yes. Can he fix all of this? I don't think so. That's where I'm at. I do think he is better than what they have had. I think he is going to be an upgrade in the lineup. That is as simple as I can put it. The price to me, and let me just go through this portion of it, because I've seen a lot of this on my mentions and all this. Here's why I'm weary of giving up first-round picks, specifically for players who are here for 20 games. And now, again, another one. This is another rental. We'll see if they end up getting the deal done. But as of right now, it's another rental. As long as that's the case, that indicates even more so Mark Stone's likely coming back, because you don't buy rentals if you don't think Mark Stone's going to be there. So that's even more of that. But the reason I don't like using some of these picks, and everyone says, well, that first round pick, you want that to become Noah Hanifin. If it becomes Noah Hanifin, it's awesome. Yes, that is the case, but you're getting Noah Hanifin at the age of 27, needing the mega contract. So while, yes, that is awesome, that if they can get him that contract and can find a way to get the team under the cap, you're not going to get the surplus value that you potentially can get from the player that you potentially draft in the first round. That's the difference. That's where the longevity, the staying power of a team that is going to eventually run out of some of these players that are at the end of their rope here at some point. I don't think they are yet. I'm talking the Marchessaults, the Carlsons, the Pietrangelos, McNabb, Stone. A lot of the best players on the Golden Knights are on the wrong side of 30. Once they get to the end, that's where you want that staying power of having that young player that you drafted in the first round pick that comes up, plays on the entry-level contract at a $6 million level, making $900,000. Then you have him as an RFA until he's the age of 27. He's under your control all of this time. Instead, the Golden Knights have now given up a first-round pick and a second-round pick to get him for 20 games to then negotiate with him the same way that they potentially could have negotiated with him on July 1st. Once that deal is signed, it's probably not going to be any different than what he was on July 1st. So not only are you giving up the cost of these assets to get the player now, but you're also paying him market value, if not more. And that's why it's not as valuable. It's very similar to RFAs. Why do teams not like to give out RFAs? Because they see the RFA and say, not only am I paying the player a little bit more than he maybe deserves at this moment, but I also have to give the draft picks with it in addition. Now, part of that is that happens in the beginning of the season. You don't know how close you are to winning a Stanley Cup. We still believe the Golden Knights are very close to winning a Stanley Cup. They won the Stanley Cup last year. They have a very good team. If they're continuously healthy and they get back to that, we believe that they will have a very good team once again moving forward. The difference, the challenge right now is that the results, the history of what we've seen, 50 consecutive games now this season, do not indicate that the Golden Knights are Stanley Cup contenders or even worthy of being there. They are the 8th seed as of right now, after an 11-0-1 start, a historic start for mostly any team, let alone a defending champion. So to me, this deal and this collection of deals, now with Hanifin, now with Mantha, potentially with another one, does indicate that it's the team may be saying we need help and a lot of help. It's not like we are right there. We need a lot of help moving forward. So that part of it has me a little bit looking at like, damn, were they not as close as we thought? Are there some serious concerns? This is another part. Buying one of the best defensemen available, Noah Hanifin, indicates that the 6 defensemen that won the Stanley Cup last year are not good enough anymore to do it again this year. That's what the belief is in the front office. That in itself should concern anyone, because you're sitting there saying, well, that's how they got it done last year. That's how they can get it done again this year. Now we're saying, well, probably not. So to me, that part of it is a little bit like, I'm happy you continue going all in. I'm happy that you're not saying, well, the team is not playing that well, let's just retool when you are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Don't love that idea. So I don't mind continuously going over the cap like they're doing. I don't mind spending the picks. I don't even mind pushing it all in. But I do think it indicates, look, like, we've got to do this again. And with all of this help that we're now bringing in, it says these guys have to help get us back to where we were a year ago. And that's a lot to ask, considering they're not close to where they were a year ago. The team heading into the playoffs would never have lost a game in Columbus, would never have lost a game in Buffalo, would never have allowed 3 goals in the first period to Boston. Like, none of that would have happened. So you see that there is a kind of showing of the cards of like, look, we must get better. And not only do we need to get better on the ice, we're going to have to supplement that team by bringing in more players to help them get better. We need player A and B, Noah Hanifin, Anthony Mantha, to get out some of these other players that are not playing at that level. And they need to up that game to get this team back to where they potentially should be. That is the challenge of where we're at in this moment, because if they get in, say it's reasonably now, you say, okay, they've got Noah Hanifin, they've got Anthony Mantha, they potentially are going to make another trade here, and now we're going to have another player. You got to think you should be able to get past the Kings, at least in the regular season. You should be better than basically everyone but probably Vancouver and Edmonton. And heck, they even might catch Edmonton if that's the case. You're probably playing Edmonton in the first round. And if that's the case, you got to win that series. Otherwise, it's a first-round pick, a second-round pick, another second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and more coming up. That if that isn't enough to get you over the bar for the first round, like, that becomes a huge disaster. So now the expectations, which it's crazy because they're the defending champions at the moment. The expectations have actually gone way up. Like, losing in the cup final is bad, like, not good enough at this point. Like, it's not even all that close to good enough. You got to win it. That's it. You must win. That's it. There's no way around it. Like, the first round pick's gone, 2 seconds are gone, a fourth's gone, and we're probably getting rid of another first round pick and another second round pick. And presumably, it wouldn't shock me if Brisson or Edstrom goes, the other 2 first round picks in the organization. Like, that's all potentially out of there. You've got to win these games. Now, yesterday I talked quite a bit on the podcast about Anthony Mantha and some of my issues of him coming back through the neutral zone. I still do have those concerns, but I thought that when I finished the podcast, I thought to myself, like, yeah, I was probably a little bit too harsh on this. I think he's good. I think he's better than some of the players that have been in the lineup. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be good. And this, I don't understand. This is not what I'm saying at all. I don't think the sky is falling. I do think they are a 500-point percentage team over the course. The 2025 first for Hanifin can slide to 26. Yeah, whatever. First round pick is a first round pick. They're a 500 team over the course of 50 games. So yes, they're getting better and bringing these players in, and Eichel is coming back and Carrier is potentially coming back, but they're a 500 team over the course of 50 games. That needs to be 750 or better if we actually believe that they're going to make the playoffs, right? They're going to make the playoffs, I believe. I've said that all along, but they need to be the best team in the NHL. These players may help them do that. These players also may not. And if they don't, then we start looking at all of the picks. That's how I look at trades. Like, okay, well, what is this saying? 20 games of Anthony Mantha, 20 games of Noah Hanifin. Is that going to be enough to get this team, plus the playoffs, to get this team to the end? And where is Stone in all of this, right? How does that look? I don't think it's a bad trade. I gave both of them Bs. I think both of them are closer to B plus, if not low A minus, all of these things. But I still have concerns because the fact of the matter is they just gave up 6 goals to the Columbus Blue Jackets. They just gave up 6 goals to the Buffalo Sabres. They just gave up 7 goals or whatever it was to Toronto. Like, they're giving up a shit ton of goals. That's my concern. On Mantha, back to what I was saying, there's a lot that I like that Anthony Mantha can do. The ability to get to the front of the goal and stay there. He has a knack for finding the empty kind of the loose change, I'll call it, and putting it into the empty cage. He has a pretty nasty shot. He's real good on 2-on-1s, which that's another part. You look at the Golden Knights recently, they're not getting the transition, and that goes away towards the end of the season. That has been an issue over the course of years before last year. And last year, they didn't really need it. They were finding ways to score. Now they still are, but they're really not getting the transition. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know that that's going to be that much of a deal moving forward, what we see from that. But I do think that portion of it, and now seeing that Mantha's going to play with Karlsson and presumably Stevenson on the left there, I think eventually they're going to want to slide someone else in there. I don't know if it's going to be a Matteo, Dorofeev, whoever it happens to be. I do think they want to get back to Eichel, Karlsson, Stevenson, Waugh down the middle. When they get to that, we'll see. As of now, Karlsson always has to play high-end defensive minutes. Like, Karlsson's going to have to play against Elias Pettersson tomorrow. When that's the case, I don't know that I love the idea of Anthony Mantha being out there with them, because I expect against some of these teams, namely the 2 teams we really have to look at the most, which is Edmonton and Vancouver. The way to beat both of them, is limit the transition and lock down the middle of the ice. You need your forwards coming back. Can Cassidy get through and get Anthony Mantha to do this at a level higher than he has done in the rest of his career? Yeah, I think it's possible. But also, I do think it's possible that he doesn't. And if he doesn't, then we're going to have to see other players coming up the lineup. The more players that come up the lineup, the farther down he goes, the less valuable he becomes. And then we start questioning, what was that trade for in the first place? That's the way I look at that one. Those are some of the issues. You know, that's the way that I'm looking at this deal. I definitely have more concerns about Anthony Mantha and the numbers and the player as a whole than I do Noah Hanifin. I'm pretty certain what we're getting out of Noah Hanifin. I think you're getting, absolutely at worst, he's the 3rd best defenseman on the team right now. So to me, for a first-round pick, not really that big a deal. Now, if he leaves, it looks a little bit different, right? Like, and if you don't win the cup, it looks a little bit different. Like, all of that comes through. And I understand I said that about the free agency thing, like all of that, but to get your 2nd best, 3rd best defenseman, like, yeah, you kind of have to go for the first-round pick at some point. Got to win, though. They've got to find a way to win. I'm very confident he's going to be very good in the middle of the lineup. What's the other thing? What was the other thing that I want to say? Oh, undrafted free agents. Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit on Miromanov. It's really good that you're looking at the Golden Knights lineup, and, like, Pahal gets claimed on waivers. Miromanov now is part of a trade. White Cloud has been in the lineup significantly for a while here, helped them win the cup. Like, I like a lot of the fact that they have been able to find some of these players. They've been able to find some of these undrafted free agents, specifically defensemen. Thompson, goalie, and be able to utilize them and make it work. That is a huge part of something that we've been saying, like eventually not having the draft picks will catch up. Are we going to see these draft picks not being there catch up? Well, if you can find players like Daniil Miromanov, like Braden Pahal, like Logan Thompson, like Zach Whitecloud, then it won't catch up as quickly because those guys are effectively second, third round picks. You could argue Whitecloud's playing at a first round pick level, right? Like that's where we're at, and that matters. The ability to throw him into that deal and that be Miromanov goes with the extension, as opposed to that being another third round pick, another prospect in the system or whatever. That's what I'm happy about. All right, I guess I will. Hey, Ken, let's talk about Marty. Alec Martinez is injured. They called it a lower body injury. When asked about how long he was going to be out, Cassidy basically looked around and said, have we put him on IR yet? Indicating he knew he's eventually going to go on IR. He said, well, that puts him on a week. That's as far as I'm going to go. The way I read that from Cassidy is he does not expect him to be out for the entire season. That being said, a guy goes out this close to the deadline. There's only 20 games left. We got 6 weeks left in the season. Like, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that he is out for the rest of the season. Here's the difference, though. I don't think they're going to trade Alec Martinez. Healthy, injured, whatever. Don't think they're going to trade Alec Martinez. I don't think that they're going to pay to have someone take Alec Martinez. It would be better off just buying off half of the salary of the players that they're doing it. It's a fourth round pick bought off half of the salary of Mantha is basically what it looked like. And then maybe a second round pick bought off another half of the salary of Hanifin. Do you want to do a second round pick to get rid of Alec Martinez and then not have Alec Martinez as an option? The other thing, though, to me, when you look at the lineup, it's Hanifin, Pietrangelo, McNabb, Theodore, Whitecloud, Haig. Can you potentially put Martinez back in somewhere? He's not going in for Hanifin. He's not going in for McNabb. He's not going in for Pietrangelo. He's not going in for Theodore. So now he has been demoted from first pair defenseman to now third, if not seventh overall defenseman. He then also plays the left side. So it's not really, is he going in instead of Whitecloud? It's now Martinez versus Haig. Which would you rather have? I could see them using both. I can see them using both in the playoffs. So having him and also having him around, I've said this a number of times, being in a room with Alec Martinez is better than being in a room without Alec Martinez. That's not even a locker room. That's any room. Just go to someone's house. It's more enjoyable when Alec Martinez is there. He's a fun guy to be around. Awesome dude, hilarious guy. He's better to have around. So just giving him away to have for no reason isn't good. You got to trust Cassidy that he's going to make the right decision. If they put Martinez back in when he is healthy, he has to outplay the other guys that are in front of him, which is now Hanifin, McNabb, and Haig. Those are the three. I do not believe he will be better than any of those three once he does come back. I believe Alec Martinez will be a healthy scratch in the playoffs. I also do not believe that Alec Martinez will be out for the rest of the remainder of the season. The Golden Knights will use his salary. I just don't believe that that's what's going to happen. So that's where I'm at on that. This Periscope and all Periscopes are brought to you by the Jimmerson Law Firm. The Jimmerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas' preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, seek out the Jimmerson Law Firm. I'll take a few more questions if anybody has them. You got to put them back in there because there's a lot of comments on here, and there's one guy who keeps yelling at me the entire time that it's getting in the way of everyone else's legitimate comments. So if you have some other comments, go ahead. I like Tyler Toffoli. I'm assuming you're saying Tyler Toffoli has not gotten traded. I don't know. I've been doing this for the last 30 minutes. So if they were to get Tyler Toffoli, I like Tyler Toffoli quite a bit. So that's that. How salty are NHL fans? Yeah, quite a bit. I don't think you can be salty until we see what happens with Mark Stone. I understand all of the salt if Mark Stone plays in game one. I understand it if he plays at some point in the first round. If he doesn't, I don't really get it. So that's where I'm at on all that. As for Mark Stone, I believe he's going to play in the playoffs. I believe he's going to play at the front end of the playoffs. That's my read on that. I don't have a ton of information beyond what I've shared before. He has a lacerated spleen. We don't have an update on what happened with it beyond that. So we don't know. Those things range. It can be 6 months. It can be 6 weeks. We don't know. I'm pretty certain it's not going to be 6 weeks. I do not think there's any chance he plays in the regular season. I put that at less than 1%. I don't think he's playing in the regular season. Are the Golden Knights done shopping? No. They had 75% of Noah Hanifin's salary retained. If they were done shopping, they would not have done that. They would have just taken the whole thing on or only had it up to basically where they're at on the cap. No. Clearly, the decision to have 50% of Mantha's salary retained and 75% of Hanifin's salary retained means they want to do more. They're expecting another player. That brings me to another point that I wanted to bring up, which is you have to be a little bit careful with all these deals. Like, we look at a lot of this and we say, wow, they're getting 3 players better than the players that are coming in. And our brains automatically say Noah Hanifin is so much better than Zach Whitecloud, than Ben Hutton, than whoever. And that is and can be true. But that gap is not always as wide as what it seems. The gap the Golden Knights need to get to from what they've been doing over the past 50 games, and more so over the past 30, where they're way under 500, is they have to get a lot better. They have to get significantly better. Does Eichel help that? Yes. Would Stone help that? Yes. Hanifin, Mantha, whoever the next guy is. Yes, all of that will help. But we automatically tell ourselves that gap is so high. There have been numerous examples in the past of teams that have gone out and bought all these different great players, and it doesn't necessarily all come together. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's just not an automatic. That's basically, and I'm not trying to wet blanket anybody here, but that's the way that I look at these things and say, well, why are they buying all of this? And that's why. The team hasn't been playing very well, and they need to continue winning. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about is the owner. Shout out to the owner, Bill Foley. There's not a ton of owners in this league, as sad as that sounds, because the salary cap is way lower than it should be based on other sports. There are not a lot of players in this, or owners in this league, that would say, keep buying. Buy. I don't care. I'll pay all the salary, buy LTIR guys, put other guys on LTIR, buy guys above the cap. They could end up in the 100 million range. He doesn't care. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. We've said this since the beginning of the franchise. One thing this team does not have to worry about ever, it seems like, is their owner being all in, willing to play. I prefer Gensel over Buchnevich, but I don't think it's far enough off that I would be all that concerned one way or the other. Let's see. Did I see Roberto Luongo's tweet? I did. If Mark Stone plays the very first game of the playoffs, yes, it is pretty shady. Again, after last year, I understand it. Am I saying I wouldn't do it if I were in the Golden Knights' shoes? No, I absolutely would do it if I were in the Golden Knights' shoes. The bigger problem is the league. The league didn't fix it. The league hasn't fixed it. The owners voted to not fix it. So here we are. That's really all there is to it. I'm not an asterisk guy or any of that thing. I don't really care. They won the Stanley Cup last season, not one time playing a roster that was over the cap in the playoffs. They never were over the cap in the playoffs. This year they might be. You might be able to be a little bit more frustrated. But if they won last year and they win it again this year, who gives a shit what people say? It's effectively a dynasty. That's it. I'm done reading all these. I'm out of here. Golden Knights have acquired Noah Hanifin and Anthony Mantha, and they're probably going to acquire someone else before Friday at noon. And we will probably have another one of these videos before Friday at noon. Thanks again to the Jimmerson Law Firm for sponsoring every SinBin Periscope this season. Nothing after the game unless there's a trade that happens during the game. Otherwise, we'll wait until Friday after the deadline. I don't know if it'll come before the press conference or after the press conference, but I'll do another video on Friday about all of this. That's it. Good night.